Did you know that in the Great Depression, the number of homeless individuals in the U.S. skyrocketed to over 2 million, or 2% of the population? In the United States, the Great Depression began with the Wall Street crash of October 1929, which spread worldwide, and recovery came in 1940. The stock market crash marked the beginning of a decade-high unemployment, poverty, low profits, deflation, plunging farm incomes, and lost opportunities for economic growth, as well as for personal advancement. The economy hit bottom in the winter of 32 to 33, then came 4 years of growth until the recession of 37. 1938 brought back high levels of unemployment. Altogether, there was a general loss of confidence in the economic future. It's a stark reminder that preparation can make all the difference in tough times. Preparing for potential homelessness during an economic collapse might seem like a daunting task, but it's essential to be proactive. We've all heard the devastating stories of people who've lost their homes and livelihoods in the blink of an eye. The truth is, it can happen to anyone at any time, and it's crucial we take steps to protect ourselves and our loved ones wherever possible. As we sit here today, it's uncomfortable to think about the possibility of becoming homeless, but it's essential to acknowledge that economic collapse can happen to anyone at any time. The truth is, we're in the age of polycrisis. Any one of the many crises we're in the middle of could bring the United States to its knees. Currently, we're dealing with supply chain shortages, inflation, strikes that affect critical elements of the supply chain, regional and global wars, not to mention civil unrest here at home, combined with catastrophic weather events ranging from heat waves to devastation from hurricanes. Preparing for homelessness might seem drastic, but it's actually a sensible approach to ensure our well-being and security. Think about it. Having a plan B can literally be a lifesaver. We might not have control over the macroeconomic environment, but we do have control over how we respond to it. In this video, we'll explore some crucial tips to help you navigate the unexpected challenge of becoming homeless during an economic collapse. It's not about being paranoid, it's about being responsible and taking care of ourselves and our loved ones. The possibility of economic challenges leading to homelessness is becoming more and more realistic by the day. We're seeing it happen all around us: rising debt, income inequality, and job insecurity. In fact, according to a recent report, over 500,000 people in the United States experience homelessness every single night, and the numbers are quietly rising every day. The recent COVID-19 pandemic has shown us just how fragile our economic systems are. It's a harsh reminder that things can go wrong quickly, and we need to be prepared. Look at the numbers. The number of homeless individuals in the United States has risen by over 3% in the past year alone. During the pandemic, with the shelter-in-place orders, many people who wouldn't have become homeless became homeless while traveling, many of which haven't ever recovered from the chaos created during the lockdowns. Cities like Los Angeles, New York, and Seattle are already struggling to cope with the growing homeless population. It's not just about the numbers, it's about the human costs. The families, the children, the people who have worked hard their whole entire lives and are now left with nothing. Unfortunately, the hidden cost has yet to be realized. As the newly homeless gravitate to the homeless shelter system and are exposed to the drug epidemic, how many weren't strong enough to resist and are now a static of zombie land? We're seeing it in other countries as well. Australia, for instance, has seen a 14% increase in homelessness over the past 5 years. It's a Western economic issue that requires a tempered and well thought out response. Currently, all the Western governments are throwing money at the issue, but is this really a funding issue or an issue of poor management of critical elements of the economy? The cause of homelessness are complex and multifaceted, but one thing is certain: it can happen to anyone. Natural disasters, job loss, divorce, illness, they're all potential triggers that can quickly spiral out of control. It's essential to acknowledge that homelessness is not just a personal problem, it's a societal issue that requires a collective response. We need to start talking about it, and we need to start preparing for it. As a society. In recent years, we've seen a surge in the numbers of people living in poverty. It's a ticking time bomb, and we need to take action before it's too late. The consequences of inaction will be devastating: increased crime rates, strained healthcare systems, and a breakdown of social cohesion. the signs are already there: the widening wealth gap, the erosion of the middle class, the rise of precarious work. It's a perfect storm that could lead to an economic collapse and subsequently homelessness. So what can we do about it? How can we prepare for the unexpected? So what can we do as individuals to get our plan B together to be able to prepare? Because if you're a prepper, or if you're just a regular Joe and think that this won't happen to you, you're sadly mistaken. Everybody should be preparing for this, because we don't know who all is going to be affected. I am expecting somewhere around a 30% homeless rate, which means 3 in 10 people will be homeless. That means we have 90 million Americans homeless. And what is the likelihood that you will be able to escape? And even if you do escape, will you be able to live a good life? So some things that you can do, a lot of people will go out and get a side hustle, but you need to be thoughtful about your side hustle, because you need to understand that most of the workforce is being automated. The best side hustles that you can get into are definitely in the digital realm, whether it be going through places like Fiverr or Upwork, or just doing something on YouTube or a different social media platform. There are many different ways in which you can make money through the digital platforms. And if you're going to be able to not only keep a roof over your head, but maybe, keep the lights on and be able to survive what is coming, you need to be more creative in the way in which you decide to make your income, because these standard income streams may not be there in the future, especially in the next 5 years with the automation of the workforce. Another thing that you can do is you can make sure that you have the right gear. Understanding your environment, creating a plan, and then creating gear around that. Although you as a prepper may be expecting SHTF to happen, where you've got your homestead and you're going to defend it to the last drop of blood, what happens if you lose that homestead before you're able to defend it? What happens if everything that you had planned for goes sideways, and next thing you know, you're completely dispossessed with nothing, even though you thought you did the right things? So having a plan, some people call an inch bag an I'm never coming home bag. Some people call it an epic bag because they're naming it after me. I've been on the road for about 2 years, but you need to be prepared to have the right gear. That means your first aid kit. That means a good sleeping system. That means you need to work with your sleeping system and know how it works inside and out, because sometimes you're going to be going through extreme weather and you need to be able to modify your stuff and know how it works well enough so that you can, your stuff may be geared for warmer weather and you get into a cold spell. And if you don't know how to modify your gear to be able to survive that cold spell, because we've got all kinds of weird weather that has been happening mostly over the last year, but it's been getting worse over the last couple of years. Okay, and so making sure that not only that you have the right gear, that it is weather tested, weather approved, is important, but having all that gear really isn't going to do anything other than help you survive. The most important part of all of this is that you need to make a plan while you're doing the gear. That way you can get the extra tools that you may need and have them on hand beforehand, so that when the whole world falls apart and you're left with your house on your back, you actually have the right tools already on hand to go out and to start making money and to get a side hustle going. And I think the last most important thing, because there's really not much you can do to prepare for an economic collapse, because during the Depression, everything shrank, but things aren't going to be shrinking during economic collapse. It's all going to come crumbling down. Okay, and think of it like a building being demolished, and it's gonna just crumble in slow motion. Okay, so what else can you do other than make sure that you have the gear, that you have a plan, and you have a side hustle, because at least you'll be able to eat and stuff like that. But the most important thing that you could do, and I think the reason why I saved it for last, is because it's probably the most critical thing that you can do. Start working within your community, whether it be your neighborhood, whether it be your whole town. If you live in a small town, start working within the homeless population. Start volunteering your time and your services, because one day you might have to use those, and you want to know what the ins and outs are. You're able to relate and meet some of these homeless individuals and get their idea on what it's like for them to live in that environment, because the way you live in Jacksonville, Florida is different than the way you live in Gainesville, Florida, is different than the way you live in Covington, Kentucky, or Cincinnati, Ohio, because each environment has its own terrain, its own obstacles, and its own benefits and services. So you might see shortcomings within the community to be able to support the homeless services to begin with. But the thing is that gives you an opportunity, and maybe that might be your side hustle, is, you know, providing services with the intent that when the whole world loses everything, and you know, you see 30% homeless, and you know that a lot of those homeless are preppers, a lot of those homeless are individuals who are hardworking, who are just down, that got caught up in this great dispossession, and you know, be there to help them and to help mitigate the damage. Because the inconsequence of not creating community and not you know, protecting your community from this crisis, not by being hostile or militant towards the homeless, but by figuring out ways to be effective to help them you know, figure out opportunities to become either gainfully employed or to start a business through the digital economy or anything else like that, because it's going to directly affect you, your safety, your security, and just your peace of mind. So working within the community, whether it be your local community and making sure that you and all your neighbors are prepped and ready to go, or you know, working within the homeless community because you see that it's going to be a larger community issue and you see that that's where you can be most effective. But either way, forming, being a part of the community, working within the community, and creating your local community is extremely important if you're going to survive an economic collapse. Because one of the great lessons that we learned from The Walking Dead is that after society fell apart, people came together and they built community, and that community protected from the zombies and from other attackers like Negan and so on and so forth. Okay, but at the end of the day, the average person, those that were able to survive and keep their wits about them, came together in a community. And so I think that that is really a good example of what it's really going to be like post-economic collapse, post-Civil War, post-global war. Okay, when the whole world just becomes a pile of rubbles, I think that we're going to see something close to what we saw in The Walking Dead. And so that might be also another good thing for you to consider, you know. But instead of the zombies, think of the zombies as the drug epidemic and the tools. Back in the Revolutionary Day, they called them monarchists. Okay, so you guys know how to help the channel. Everything's down in the description, memberships, a tip jar, all of that. Otherwise, become a subscriber. Make sure you share this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think I missed out on something? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.